My name's Jerry Jesperger, and I'd like to ask a question with regards to caregivers that are unpaid. And I'd like to know what your party plans to do to help these people who look after their loved ones and are saving our healthcare system from having them going into homes and daycare systems. And if the answer is going to be a non-refundable tax credit, I'd like to know how that can help somebody who is earning no income and has no income tax to pay.
Thank you. So we'll start with Van Vigny as number 1, then we'll go to Canadian Actions Party. Doug Hart is number 2. Thank you.
Sir, we have first of all, I agree with you completely. Part of our plank to strengthen healthcare is to offer a home care program which allows people to tap the unemployment insurance program to provide them with the funds that they need in order to do exactly what you're describing here. We recognize completely that there's not only a need but a serious deficiency in our healthcare system, and that gap has to be bridged, and bridged immediately. Not with a tax credit, you're absolutely right, but with income to help you support those that need your help.
Thank you. Now to Doug Hart, please.
I'd like you to think about a great big pie chart, so I can explain this. Now, in that big pie chart that's all is empty, take a 5% wedge. Okay? That's how much money Canada has after the banksters are finished with their compound interest every year. So there's not a lot to go around for care at home. What the Canadian Action Party wants to do, and it's on our website, Canadian Action Party, just type it in, right, is that we want to use the Bank of Canada in a much greater capacity. The banksters, with all their compounded interest, have got a big Ponzi scheme on us. But we're Canadians. We have our own bank. It's called the Bank of Canada. We want that Bank of Canada to take care of about 35 to 45% of Canadian business to start with. So you put that in the pie chart, and I'll tell you right now, there's lots of money left over to take good care of children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. We're on to Brendan Waters, Green Party of Canada.
So, some of the healthcare proposals that the Green Party has come up with is to make sure that hospital beds are not used for people with dementia and Alzheimer's. So there's a great deal of money available for caregivers in the platform. I don't know the details. I want to point you towards the website in the Green Vision document and look in the budget. The way that we're structuring our the money that we're looking at, our carbon taxes, corporate taxes, and eventually we want to tax marijuana as well. There's a great deal of income available for that.
Thank you. And what are we on to now? Terry Platt, please.
With home care, there would be greater support for that, and there would be greater assistance. No one should have to pull it alone. They're finding that while some of our seniors are looking after their loved ones at home, they're burning themselves out to where they need the help. There would be more respite care. There would be greater home support. There would be greater assistance. And if I go to Ottawa to represent you, it would be my #1 issue. Tax credits are nice if you've got an income. But if you don't, it's just words written on a piece of paper. Thank you.
I think that there's plenty of money to pay people looking after their loved ones at home. What we should do is just look at what would it cost to have that person in care and just give the money to the person that's looking after them at home. And I think that they'll be healthier longer. They're close to their families. The whole family is healthier longer. Now, where is all this money? I want to point you to a little book here that's written by a former top general in the United States. His name was General William Smedley Darlington Butler. General Smedley Darlington Butler. He wrote a little book in 1938 called War is a Racket. Now this is a general who spent his whole life invading little countries in South America and Central America to make them safe for big multinationals to come in and take the resources out. And towards the end of his career, he realized he'd been a tool all his life. So he wrote this little book, and he said, you know, during peacetime, arms companies make 100% profit. 100%. In wartime, they make 900% profit. So war is very profitable to some people, to a very small number of people. And I mentioned that the $100 million was going out of this riding alone to fight the war in Afghanistan. Well, if we buy these F-35 fighter jets, there's another $200 million that will be coming out of this riding. That buys a lot of home care. Not to mention all the misery that we're causing by bombing Libya right now. This Canadian author, his name is Whittaker, and he wrote a detailed analysis of how wars start. And he looked at many wars in history, and he's writing a second book. He's a Canadian author, Whittaker, professor of journalism. And he says that wars start by lies, basically. And I wanted to mention this Canadian author because it's important that we talk about Canadian authors. This is a Canadian election. But I want to mention also this American author named William Blum. And he wrote a book called Killing Hope. And he documents the 50 wars started by Americans, by the American Secret Services.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, next question. Mr. John Wesley.
And Dan, I really do want to answer this question because I think this is a community that cares about caregivers. This is a community where you have Debbie D, who represents the Brain Injury Society. This is a community that built the inland lake where you can take disabled people and give them a wonderful outdoors experience. This is the community that has the Bruce Dennison Society, and the list goes on and on and on. We have, a good question, Carrie. In fact, it is a $2,000 tax credit that is provided in the budget that we will pass if we are elected as government. And a tax credit is different from a tax deduction. A tax credit is money in your pocket at the end of the year, as opposed to a deduction, which is a deduction against income for tax purposes. So it is a specific acknowledgement of the role of caregivers. And, you know, I mean, we had my mom live with us for the last years of her life. It's an incredible thing to be able to care for somebody, but it's not something everybody can afford. Is this enough? No. I mean, it would be great if we could make it 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. But the thing about the promises in this plan is they're all costed. They're all designed to go into a deficit that reaches zero by 2015 because we don't want to tax our kids and our grandchildren to be able to afford these things. Right. There's also the Registered Disability Savings Plan, something that I lobby for, among many others. It's now part of the conservative, what was introduced a couple of years ago, and it will be improved in this next budget, again, if we are re-elected.
Thank you. Sorry, you're missing one point. There's one point you're missing.
No, there's a question here.
No.
You've had your question, sir.
Tax to pay.
Please, go to the other microphone. Thank you. Go ahead and ask your question.
Democracy started in ancient Greece, and it evolved over the years through revolutions. As a result of all the actions, women got the vote, Aboriginal people got the vote, Japanese internment people got the vote, and it seems that democracy is beginning to be lost in this country. Woo! My question is, Mr. Harper, who espouses upholding the law and making people responsible for their actions by punishing them, is the word he used, was in contempt of Parliament. And his response to it was, oh, it's just one of these trivial things in Parliament. It's not trivial. He broke the law of Parliament and he has to be accounted.
Your question, please.
Would you please tell me what your view is of contempt of Parliament and what the result should be?
Thank you. Party of Brennan. Your definition of the contempt of Parliament.
I think it's definitely valid and something to look at when you're voting in this next election. The other thing that's interesting is that young people have had the vote and they're not using the vote. So I truly think that part of the reason why that's not happening is because we're looking at a system that doesn't work. So our electoral form proposals encourage people for proportional representation, because in the last election the Greens would have gotten something like 30 to 35 seats. And integrity is essential. It hasn't been shown in this last government very well.
Thank you, and from there we'll go on to